All right, welcome to another episode of the Warrior Rulebook podcast. I'm here with a fellow podcaster, Nigel, and he's going to be talking today about how people can be like attacked for their creativity. And we'll say creatives because there's a creative inside all of us, I believe. And so I just want to talk about that and also like the mental effects of that because sometimes you can pour so much like into a project, and then someone just comes along and they don't understand it, and I can know that can be very like griping, or they just like say things out of their head that just doesn't make sense and you're like, what? That's not what's going on here, and you want to put them in their place. So we're going to talk about that today. So first I want to talk a little bit about Nigel. So he also has founded a company called No Matter Productions, and you say your last name as Sanderson, right?
Sanderson, yeah.
I did not want to butcher it. Okay, yes. Nigel Sanderson is a writer, director, editor, and performer. So he does it all. Love multi passionate people. I'm multi passionate myself. And though he graduated with a degree in video and film, he also believes that you never can stop learning. Again, that's something that I believe in as well. Like ever since college was over, I did continuing education as well, and just I love learning. So I definitely agree with that. And even when you're entertaining with the right direction, any story can be a marvel. So I'm excited to talk to him. So bringing on Nigel Sanderson. Hey.
Hey, what's up? What's up, Mo?
All right. So get us into like the whole like creativity type of sphere. Let's start off fresh. How do you get into your creative process?
So, um, you know, like it says in the thing you just read, I feel like you never stop learning. And how I get in the creative process has been a continuous flux. Um, and I feel like for me, I'm most creative when I'm waking up. Like when I'm still kind of tired, I'm waking up from sleep. And so, you know, I know a lot of people don't like to use their phone at certain times, but for me, it's easier for me to just roll over and type it in what what's on my mind, what I'm thinking of, you know, and also I watch a lot of videos on creativity and stuff like that, and a lot of people that I've seen have also said in the morning is the best time to get your creativity out, and they actually suggest to not even look at your phone until like half an hour to an hour after you wake up, which I do want to start trying. I think I'm gonna like get like a notepad and a pen next to my bed instead of my phone and try that out, because I do think it is true. For me, when I start doing something creative in the morning, it does help me to keep that creativity flourishing. And I think it just helps because I have such an overactive mind that if the first thing I do in the morning is creative, then it's going to keep flowing before all the thoughts and everything like that and all the distractions start in the middle of the day, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, and I was about to say, like, how would that work? Like, if you can't like use your phone, because for me, I know when I start thinking about something, like I experience it like a movie where I'm just like, oh, that's so good, like that, like I have
Yeah,
to like create it now, and then like some time will go by, and then like the idea just slips out of my mind. I was like, wait,
yeah.
what was that? Wait, was it? And so it's like I'm trying to get it back. And so, yeah, I'm glad that you said I need to get a pen and paper. So maybe I should try that too.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because I'm the person who, when I write scripts, when I write stories or whatever, I actually type faster than I write. And
Mm,
so, like, I kind of rely on technology for my creative process. But I am trying to cut down on screen time. I am trying to cut down on the electronics. So, I do think a pen and pad would be better. Now, there are times, because I also do music, there are times where, like, a lyric will come in my head, and I'm like, if I don't get this out, I'm going to forget it. So what? And even sometimes I've noticed too. Um, I actually write dialogue better when I'm walking. So when I get that lyric or when I get that dialogue in my head, I've been lately using the voice record on my phone. So I guess it's kind of like a cop out because it's not necessary. I don't really have to type or look at my phone. I could just hit record and record my voice, and I'll just say the dialogue, say the lyric, and then and it usually comes right before I go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I could just tackle that in the morning and deal with that recording later, as opposed to like getting more screen time when I'm trying to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm. That is so smart. Okay, so for those of you that are listening, yes, get your voice recorder out whenever you're creating content or you're thinking about content and just say it. And then you can just like listen to yourself in the morning. That's genius.
Can I
I
just say, could I just add
yeah.
that now I'm a big proponent of doing everything on a budget. Like when I was in film school, everybody would come to me to figure out the free stuff or like the cheap stuff.
Yeah.
I will say I was trying to find a little recorder for my voice so I wouldn't have to use my phone and just use it separately. Voice
Okay.
recorders are stupid expensive right now. So
Like
you
the
might as well
Tascam ones, right?
yeah, just like a little one that you can put in your pocket. They're stupid expensive. So I'm like, it's probably just cheaper just to get an app on your phone. Well, most phones have recorders by default on them. So just use that and save money because I'm not trying to spend like $100 on a voice recorder. That's
Right.
ridiculous. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think our voice memos on our iPhones are pretty good. Oh, you
Right,
don't
right.
have iPhone, right? You have an
No.
Android. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say the voice memos on ours is probably pretty good. I gotta remember it's hard to keep track of all the iPhones.
Yeah. Yeah, I downloaded a separate app that's a little more intuitive, and
Okay.
I type out like if it's a scene, I'll type out the scene name, da da da, or if there's a lyric, I'll type that out, and I have it organized in a certain like folder organization workflow. So that's why I downloaded a separate app for that.
Yeah, that definitely saves creatives time too when you're like documenting your scenes and stuff. So that way you just put it in and editing's
hmm
fast. You probably could teach a whole course on it.
I am about to do a video on organization for video editors. So yeah.
Yes. Okay. Can't wait to see that. All right. So, the next thing I wanted to talk about was like when, yeah, when have you ever been attacked like for your creativity? And how did that make you feel like when it first happened? Can like you think about it when it first happened?
I can't necessarily think about it when it first happened. I can think about it when it was somebody who at the time I deemed important to me that they attacked my creativity. Now that I'm older and I know what kind of person they are, now I know it was more of envy on their part. It was more of jealousy. But at the time, it was like, whoa, like where's that coming from? Like why you doubting me? And then it like kind of rocks your core for a minute, and it's like, all right, cool, I see how you are. And then you gotta kind of brush that off. And I think it was J. Cole who says something like, if you can, he said something like, if you don't tell them your dreams, they can't shoot them down. So that happened early in my life, and um, it kind of taught me to be kind of quiet on how I move with my stuff. And so, that's why I don't have that many instances of people like attacking my creativity,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been like that quiet guy that does stuff in the background, and then people are like, "Oh, you did that, that's crazy, that's pretty good." But definitely, there's always going to be somebody who attacks your creativity, especially when you're a creative who puts your stuff on YouTube or Vimeo or whatever. There's always going to be comments or someone like, "Oh, that's stupid" or whatever. But you got to kind of like just brush it off, because at the end of the day, no one can do what you do because you do it. So
Yeah. And what were some of the thoughts, if you don't mind sharing, that kind of circulated in your mind? Um, like when you realized that like people were coming after like this thing that you created?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think that kind of emboldened me, because I'm one of those weird people who actually works better on negative reinforcement. So
Okay.
like, when there was like, I want to say, I don't know if this is like people coming at my creativity specifically. It was more like people who were counting me out, who didn't think I was capable of doing what I was capable of. It was like, all right, cool. That emboldened me. So I disappeared. I got mad quiet, and I went and learned and gathered all my resources. And, you know, I wanted to become like the full filmmaker. And, years later now, I am, well, I'm better than what I used to be. I have a degree in video and film production, and I'm doing it as a career now. And so I look at those people in my past who counted me out, and I look at them and I'm like, oh, you're still in the same spot, but I've evolved and I'm still evolving, and I'm going to keep evolving. And now I look at those people and I'm like, I wanted to be doing what you did, but I've actually surpassed it. So
Mhm.
there's no point in me in looking back or going back to you, you know.
Right. So, yeah, I think that was something very key that you said. Like, basically, from what you're saying, it sounds like you basically put yourself in a place where you're valued and what you have to create is valued now. And that was something that I was thinking about as you were talking, because you know if someone does see a negative comment online, that may make them want to shut their YouTube down, or not, delete everything, delete all the videos. And um, the truth is, like, people's videos or whatever they create, writing stuff like that, all of that can help people. So I think definitely having that perspective of like, okay, let me go back and refine my skill, make sure everything's up to par, and then position myself in a way that it's going to help somebody or you're going to feel appreciated. I think that's very key for creatives to basically fight back, for lack of a better term, just fight back and be like, this is valuable and I'm going to share this. So, yes, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, because the
So,
best success is revenge. I mean, the best revenge is success. So
yeah.
there were some comments where there was some truth to it. So I was like, all right, well, let me go refine myself so I can't be denied. So
Yeah, and have you noticed too, I don't know if it happens on your channel or how you respond to it, but it always seems like people pay attention more to where you messed up on, and they feel the need to capitalize on that. And they're just like, oh, like, your lighting was terrible there, or it's like, oh, you need to work on how you talk, like you're stuttering. Like, it's just like, how, why do people notice that more than like, I actually got out of bed, I got ready, and I gave myself self affirmation so I can just show up on camera, just to get to turn the camera on, and you're already coming at me. Or I actually finally took what's out of my brain and wrote it down, and you're
yeah,
telling me my grammar is terrible. Like, it's like, it's crazy.
yeah, man. I mean, people are always going to try to get you at your worst. And maybe that's a result of the society that we live in now, because everything is like fast food brain activity where everybody needs that visceral dopamine hit. And I'll tell you one thing, nothing hits the dopamine like the negative stuff. Like, you ever been to a restaurant or something like that and the service was so bad that you just wanted to put a negative review on Yelp? It's
Yes.
like
Yes.
now
Year. Oh my gosh.
times that emotion by like 20, because there are some people who only do that. And I've met people like that in my life. And I'm like, I don't pay attention to it because I'm like, you know, that's a sad life to live, and I'm glad I don't have to be you. You know, I'm secure within myself to do what I do, because a lot of times some of that negative stuff comes through insecurity, and then you got to have the wisdom to separate the insecurity from wisdom. Because like I said before, I got a comment before on a video that I did, one of the first short films I ever did, where this dude sent like a paragraph, and I've seen him before, and he was like, this was like 7 8 years ago. I've seen
Wow.
him before on YouTube, and I know he was like a troll reviewer,
Hmm.
but the way he reviewed mine, I didn't take it personal. Like, he said a lot of technical stuff on why my film didn't work. And so a lot of people were mad, a lot of people who worked on it with me, but I was like, he he hit on a lot of good stuff, and he was one of the main reasons that I decided to go to film school and learn what I did. So you got to have the foresight to see whether they're mad at you to be mad so they can try to get some clout, or they are saying something genuine. They're just being nasty about it, because everybody's a character online. You know,
Hmm.
everybody has a mask on online, you
Hmm.
know, and that sometimes you just gotta be like, look, they wouldn't say that to my face, so I'm not gonna pay attention to it. And other times you gotta be like, oh, you know what? They hit on a lot of good points, so let me learn from it. You know.
Right, right. And something that I've learned as well is like to try to give people the benefit of the doubt when they say certain things, like, maybe they had a bad day, or, maybe they are missing context, or maybe, what they're saying is true, but they're just not articulating it in the way that's like, okay, like they're just trying to help. So it's like sometimes a lot of comments they online, they can sound like very nasty, and sometimes people are just trying to like
Yeah,
give it to you raw. So yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's sad. I just look at people like that, and what kind of small person do you have to be inside to do that constantly? Because there are people who do it constantly. And then sometimes, like you said, people have a bad day, so it's like, it is what it is. You know, when you do something, you know, I've always been taught that if people aren't talking about you, then you ain't doing nothing right. So,
Mhm.
you know, if you get 30 comments, you know, maybe 15, 16 of them are going to be negative, but hey, at least they're talking about you.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe they'll pass it off to somebody else, and somebody else enjoy it and be like, actually, I like that. I'm gonna link up with them later. So
Exactly.
that's definitely a good point. Like sometimes it'll just do the reverse, just to make that other person like angry. So yeah, I would definitely say like just keep going. That's like
Yeah. No one like Van Gogh when he was out, but now he's legendary. You know,
yeah.
sometimes your stuff might be misunderstood because it's beyond its time. You never
Mm.
know. And everything is cyclical. It could come back too. Maybe it was too late, and then someone comes back to it years later. It's like, you know what? That was pretty dope.
Right, right. Something that I want to shift to is like, I again, you probably have dealt with this as well, but trying to create things for clients, because I do remember in the past, like trying to appeal to the client, or trying to like make something that's just like, wow, like this is amazing. In my brain, I'm like, it's amazing, it's wonderful. And then they were just like, why did you do this? Or what is this basically? So, how can someone try to like overcome the other person kind of being ignorant to what they're doing, or ignorant to the creative power or creative flow of what that person created?
I would just say try to trust in yourself. No one likes a yes man, so
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you feel like passionate about what you're doing, if you're sure of something, push back a little, maybe do a little bit of compromise. That's what I try to do. Um, Nowadays, I'm a lot more choosy with what I do, because I'm not to be that guy, but I'm like, hey, I went to school for this. I got a degree. You know, I don't want to do
Let
that. I
them
don't want
know.
to do that, but I'll do that. Yeah, you know, you gotta let them know sometimes. You know, because it was not. That was probably one of the hardest things I did in my life, going to film school and working full time and going to school for full time. So it's like, you know, you got to be choosy with your projects. But when I do freelance jobs, and um, I'll send like an edit, and somebody has some notes or something like that. There have been times where, excuse me, I've gotten notes, and I'm just like, this just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, and it'll just like drive me crazy because, like, full disclosure, I do have ADHD. Been diagnosed, when I was in my mid 20s. So it's like stuff like that can make your brain go crazy. And one thing I learned about having ADHD, you got to break things down into sections. And
Mm-hmm.
like I literally did this like last month. I had a client give me like paragraph of changes that just didn't make sense. So what
Ooh.
I did, I took the
Ooh.
email, I printed it out, and I took a red pen and just cut it down into sections and
Okay.
turned those sections into a checklist. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, could I do this? Or how would I do this that it makes sense? Because there's a thing about doing videos. It's called editing language. My one professor would say, like, he would say, "Oh, Nigel, you have great editing language." He's like, "How did you get that?" And people are like, "How do you know how to do that?" Uh, I could tell you the unhealthy way that I learned how to do that, which was just watch thousands of hours of TV. I don't suggest anybody do that. But
Mm-hmm.
um, there is editing language, and you gotta like you can't do certain things in the video. So I would do like a compromise. I'm like, I won't do exactly what you suggested, but in my educated experience, this is the direction it should go. Even though I don't think I should change this part of the video because I like what I edited here, let me do a compromise and see what you think about this. And for me, 9 times out of 10, they like it. So I would just say, trust in yourself, use your knowledge, and don't, especially if you're going to put your name on it. If you know
Mm-hmm.
something's not going to work, don't do it.
Right.
Just be like, look, you came to me for a reason. Let me do my job. Let's find a
Mm-hmm.
compromise. You know, I'll send you this edit. What do you think about this change that I did? It's kind of what you suggested, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also got my little bit of flair into it. So what do you think about that?
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely a good point. Like just being able to be like, no, this is why it won't work. This is
Yeah.
what's gonna happen if you try to do it this way.
Mm,
And sometimes I'm a little different. I'm not ashamed to say it. Because like I think for the people that I do it for though, they're not paying for it. So I think I can get away with it. But sometimes I'll let it happen. I'll be like, see, this is why I said don't do that. This is why we should not have done this.
Sometimes I'll do that, but then sometimes I'll be like, I don't feel like doing that work that's going to make me show you that you're wrong. So here's a
Right.
compromise.
Right.
But if it's easy and it'll take 5 seconds, I'll be like, yeah, I'll do that. See, this is why this doesn't work. you
Right.
know?
Right. And be like, this is why we need to do something similar. I see where you were going with this, but no, no.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Can we get into how your creativity has evolved over time? And can you bring in some projects that you would like to talk about that you feel especially proud of?
Yeah, I mean, starting out, creativity was non-existent. Um, and what I mean by that is like, I have a vast imagination. I'm pretty sure a lot of creatives do. But, in the beginning, you're just writing or drawing or filming or whatever, and you're not showing anybody. I think to be truly, truly creative is to, apply that creativity and let people see what you're doing, you know. And and like over time, when I came into film school and started doing this for real, everybody, not just myself, but everybody thought they was going to be the next, Spielberg. They was going to do a Marvel Avengers movie and everything like that. And then you learn what it takes to do that, and then you learn you got to keep. It's like clay, you got to keep chipping it away until you find the sculpture, and then you learn that there's more than one way to tell a story. There's
Mm-hmm.
more than one way to do this, and you could still have like a great emotional impact in uh, one a 1 minute to 5 minute microfilm. You just got to know how to, hit the right spots and do the right moves. You just got to chip away at it. And then you can build up to the Marvel Avenger type movie that you want to do. Because
Mhm.
even if you did have the money, you're not ready for it. You're not mentally prepared. You're not intellectually prepared. You gotta crawl before you can walk, and that's true
Right.
in creativity too. I mean, right now I'm speaking specifically for film stuff, but I can imagine if you wanted to be a comic book illustrator, if someone gave you like, I don't know, $100,000 tomorrow, and you just decided to be an illustrator, you wouldn't know how to tackle those deadlines right away. You got to have the experience. You got to know the know-it-all. Like you got to know how to work on that. So
And
you
they
know
probably wasted to try to get like the fancy, bells and whistles that goes along with creating something. It's just like you
exactly,
use too much of that. Why?
exactly. Because I tell you one thing, man. Like going to film school really opened my eyes. Like if you gave me $100,000 before I went there, I would be like, oh, I need this special effects, I need these props, I need this. Then you go to film school, it's like, no, 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 no.
Hmm.
If you're spending the most money you're going to spend is on advertising, audio, and feeding your crew. That's what you should spend your money on.
Yeah.
And most importantly, the audio guy, because the visuals don't matter as much. Like I was just watching a video about 4K, I mean, 8K gaming, and I was watching a video why it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because the stuff that they're outputting, not to get too technical, but the textures are like half the time are 720 or 1080p. So
Mhm.
it doesn't matter if it's 8K. Why do you even need 8K? The human eye can't even perceive that much at certain lengths. So like I was telling my one boy the other day, he was gaming and he was like, it doesn't look right. I was like, did you take a tape measure and measure your nose to the screen to get the optical viewing angle? He was like, oh no, I should do that. I was like, yes, all TVs and monitors have an optical viewing angle and they tell you in the thing. Like, see, people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing to have 4K and 8K. Like, I still game and I still watch movies in 1080. I don't care. Like, as long as the lighting's good, you can have a 1080 camera and your subject is going to look great. You could have a 720 camera and your subject is going to look great. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. But if they can't hear what your subject is saying and it sounds horrible, no one cares. And I tell people all this all the time. If you don't believe me, go watch your favorite fight scene without sound effects. Put it on mute. I guarantee you it looks trash. It doesn't hit as hard.
Like they're just like flying and
Yeah,
stuff.
they're just, and I bet you your eye is going to catch when they actually don't hit each other and when they're faking it. But when you turn the sound effects on, that's what makes the scene. The music and the sound effects of them hitting each other. I'm telling you. Like people think it's all the flashy stuff. No, it's the little stuff. It's the part where the guy's walking across the grass and you hear his footsteps. They didn't do that on site. They did it in post. You got
Hmm.
to spend the money the right way. Feed your crew, get an audio guy, and I forgot the other thing I said. But yeah, like
It's
like
all
that's
good, but just
yeah,
get
it's
in.
it's substance, man. It's the meat, it's the bones, it's the root. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it actually reminded me, my professor in college had said that they'll forgive bad video, but they won't forgive bad audio. So, like,
hundred
that just
percent.
makes so much sense.
90% of the audio that you watch in a movie has been done in post. They re-recorded it so they can get the best audio, and they spend so much money because
Mm.
they'll um they'll hire the actors for the production, and then they'll hire them again for the post production to redo the audio for most of the film.
Wow. So why do they do that? Because like it just didn't come
It's the
through clear
best
the
audio.
first time.
It's the best audio. Now there are productions where, especially like smaller budget films, indie films,
Mm.
where they'll spend the most money on like the best audio guys, and they'll get the audio on site because they don't have as much money to rehire the cast to do the voiceover stuff. Now, of
Mm.
course, there's going to be times when you might have to do some ADR, additional voice recording, but for the most part, you're going to hire an experienced audio guy to get it on set that day.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Taught me something because I didn't know nothing about that. I'm just, watch. I did take a class in college about like analyzing like different shots and stuff, but we never got into, I don't think, like, what's happening in post and stuff like that. So thank you for sharing that perspective.
That was my first class in film school, audio.
Wow.
Blew my mind.
That's so cool. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's audio is taken so much seriously in our industry. Like it's like if you mess that up, it's like everybody's like hair is just like standing up. It's like no.
Because you cannot recreate audio. You just got to do it from scratch if it's bad. You
Yeah,
can't fix it. I've tried.
that
I've
static.
tried.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, bad audio will halt your whole production, man.
Yeah, especially being outside trying to film something. I thought I was doing something. I went right in the post and I heard all this wind. I tried to denoise it. I was like,
It don't
let me
work.
just redo it. Let me
You
redo
got to do ADR, man. You got to do voiceover work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I think that with like creating something and also with trying to pursue a career, it can be kind of daunting or kind of discouraging to constantly be rejected. So, I mean, I don't know if you've ever participated in like film festivals or, film contests and things of that nature, but
Mhm.
how can someone that's been rejected like multiple times, just like how someone can be rejected for a job position, how can they pretty much silence that, like, oh, like you're not going to make it this time, so that they can actually put themselves out there again, other than getting that education? What can they do, or who should they speak to be able to feel that passion or spark again?
So I think what you're talking about, I think that ability to take that rejection on the cheek and just keep going, that's what separates the cats from the lions. You know, there's like, if you ever went to like New York, which is a very creative space, and you see people, you can run into people a dime a dozen who had a dream to be on Broadway or dream to be a writer, and they just settled into whatever role they fit in society, you know. And it's sad to say, but if you just gave up, then you wasn't cut out for it. I had a friend one time who she was crying because the directors said she didn't have the look that they wanted and they rejected her and da, 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 and she did like two auditions, didn't work out. And I was like, look, man, this is, you told me this is what you wanted to do since you was a little girl, and you crying over two rejections. There's people out there who, yeah, they're successful now, but they had 1,000 rejections. I think Meryl Streep talked about how she was never on people's top list because she wasn't attractive enough. I think Octavia Spencer said that too, but look at them now. They're mad successful, you
Mhm.
know. So it's like, I mean, that's definitely what separates the lions from the cats, but it's like you got to look at that and I don't know. It's like I guess if you just don't go through with it, then it wasn't meant for you, I guess.
Mhm.
Because you gotta understand, man, like if you're creative, there's some form of vanity in it. So there's people who's going to come at you, there's people who's going to reject your art. You can either let that make you run for the hills, or you can take that and let it help you grow. You it'll let you feed yourself. I've been to auditions because I act. I've been to I've wanted to do jobs for people and they didn't want me to do it. At the end of the day, I let that embolden me and I learned more. And now I got people calling me for positions or calling me to do stuff for them. So it's like I would just say use that as fuel for the fire. Use that negativity to get you out of bed and to get you out there. Be like, oh, they rejected me over there, but they'll probably get me where I fit in. You know, At the end of the day, there's always going to be knocks on the chin, but you guys got to take it. Don't have a glass jaw. Just, take that, learn from it, adapt or die.
Mhm.
Because if you really want this, anything worth having is worth fighting for, man. You just
Yeah.
got to keep at it. Keep at it.
Yes.
Barry Jenkins said, like, he was like, "Hey, man, I didn't hit it until I think he said 40 or 50.
Mhm.
It's hard to tell with Barry Jenkins because black don't crack. He looks so young, but he's actually older than he looks. But I mean, Barry Jenkins, he hit it off with Moonlight, the Underground Railroad. Now he's doing a Lion King sequel. Like, the dude is killing it. But
Wow.
like he said, I didn't pop off until I was what, 40 or 50 years old. So
Mhm.
just got to keep pushing, man. It might not be right now, but I'm sure there's time for you.
Yes, and that's something so powerful because something that I don't think that we talk about enough, like as creatives in our industry and just across the board. Like life is a numbers game. Like sometimes people think they're going to get it right on the first try, or we might be jealous of other people that get it on the first try. And it's like, no, for a majority of us, we're going to go through a lot of rejections. We're going to go through, people that, we really want them to say yes and they say no. And it's just like, like, you kind of spiral off depending on how influential the person is to you. And it's like, you have to realize there are so many people on this planet. Like, try to see if you can reach that many people first and you will get closer to your yes. So I hope that that's a discussion that we can have more, like that, like you're going to miss a lot, like all the shots that you don't take, but the more that
Yes.
you keep getting rejected, it builds you up, it builds your character. And while you're refining yourself and figuring out how to articulate yourself and your value a little bit better, then you'll see like people, like the door is just going to start opening.
Exactly. And it's 2022, it's not like it's 2022. It's not time to wait for opportunity. It's time to make opportunity. Like, there's
Yes.
so many outlets now. There's Vimeo, there's YouTube, I mean there's stuff popping up every day, TikTok, whatever. You can put your stuff out there and you'll get a little bit of audience. I mean, every class I went to, every professor I had in film school would always tell me, even if you have one or two or three or four audience members, that's still an audience. So do your best and perform for them. So even if you have five followers or whatever, that's still an audience. And pretty soon, if you keep getting better, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get better. And they're going to tell their friends, and and then pretty soon they'll be the ones saying, "Oh, that person, I knew them from jump, man. I was one of their first subscribers, man. I was singing their praises from jump." So just keep it pushing, man, and we'll see if you do. We'll see if you do keep it pushing, because are you going to be a cat or are you going to be a lion?
Right.
Are you going to be a domestic house cat or are you going to be a apex predator? Let me know.
Yes, yes. Can you highlight an opportunity or a few opportunities that you've had to be able to do like the multiple aspects of film, like with editing and writing and even performing? Like, how are you able to build up all of those aspects? Did it happen at once or did you have to focus on certain aspects at a time?
Um, I feel like it happened over time. I mean, I'm in my 30s now, and I started like 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, doing this stuff. First I started out with acting. Then I branched off because the thing about acting that frustrated me was, um, you have to go to the projects. You always have to audition. You have to wait for the callback, and if you get it, then you have to do this. You have to do that. It's too. It was too reactionary for me. And then I got fed up and decided to do my own short film. And man, I tell you what, man, that was a learning curve. That whole year that I took to do that, to do a 19-minute short film, which turned out to be trash, by the way. It was trash. But I learned so much from that, because everybody who said from the beginning that they would be with me on it dropped out. So I ended up doing
Wow.
every single aspect of it. And though it was frustrating because I was learning how to edit, I was learning how to direct, I was learning how to write, I was learning how to do everything at the same time within that year. The project might have been trash, but I came out different because I realized I like doing all these different aspects of filmmaking. And so I tried the route of teaching myself, learning off of YouTube, and then eventually I was like, I got to go to school for this. And so I went to school for it, and um, I saw why my wife set it up for me. She found the degree for me, found the school, set up the counseling session, and they had a degree where it was like a concentration on showing you how to do everything all at once, like how to do every single aspect of film.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, maybe this will help me learn how to do. Well, maybe this will help me figure out what I want to do specifically in filmmaking. And what I learned was I want to do everything. And I like doing everything. I like acting, I like directing, I like writing. Now there are some things I do like more than others. I do like editing more than other stuff. I do like directing more. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's like my biggest focus. But that came with just doing different stuff all the time, doing projects. And on top of one thing about going to film school, I'm not saying you have to go, but it helped me for a person like me. One thing about it was the acceleration of the learning because you have what, at least 4 classes a semester, and each one of those classes you got to do a film for. So
Wow.
yeah, you gotta, and on top of that, I was going to work full time as well. So
That
you
sounds
gotta,
awful.
yeah, yeah. It was like the longest 2.5 years of my life. But
Mm,
doing all that stuff, you learn on the fly because you're doing indie projects because you don't have a lot of money.
mm,
So you're doing indie projects. So a lot of times things don't work out. So you got to step up in a certain department. You got to step up with sound. That's how I learned how to do sound mixing, sound mastering, learning how to do video editing,
mm,
stuff like that. And you do all this stuff like budgeting, scheduling, so um, that's what really helped me learn how to do all those different aspects to the point that now I'm like a Swiss Army knife when it comes to stuff. Like some people ask me, "Oh, what could I do for this? What do I got to do for that?" I'm like, "Oh, you could do this, blah blah blah." Like my boys, two of my boys just started their own podcast where they break down the books of Game of Thrones, coming out soon. Check that out. When I found out where it's coming, I'll let y'all know. But um, they're releasing that Friday, and they'll ask me, how do I do this? I'm like, "Oh, you might need this. You could go this route. You could go that route. And that learning all that stuff too helps with problem solving and stuff like that, figuring out how to do stuff. um, I had a gig just the other day where I had to figure out how to make a projection of an instrument work on a screen on a budget for people who didn't have the equipment. I was like, oh, I could do this and do this, da, 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 and I figured it out.
mm,
So that helps as well. And it's like someone asked me one time too, how did you gained so much experience in such a short amount of time. And I had to be real. And I was like, look, and it was a job interview. And I was talking to them like this. I was like, look, at the end of the day, I wasn't chasing a bag, I was chasing experience. Sometimes you got to humble yourself and you got to say, look, I might not get paid in cash with this job, but I might get paid with experience and connections and networking. So a lot of times I did stuff for free and I learned and I built relationships with people. And they're like, oh, yo, you did a good job. Guess what? I'm doing another job over here. You want to join me? It's like, oh, yeah, I'll do it. They might not pay enough. That's fine. It's cool. I'll just get my name out there. Boom. You gain experience, you gain relationships, you gain networking. You got to humble yourself sometimes. And I'll tell you what, being humble and quiet and willing to learn will get you far in life, period, not just in creative. It'll get you far in life. If you're easy to work with and you're willing to learn, people will jump at you like, yo, this guy, he can do it. This girl, she can do it, you know. And that way you'll learn a lot and you'll grow a lot. and next thing you know, you'll be learning stuff you didn't even know that you knew how to do.
Mhm.
You'll be the person that people will come to.
Yes, and that just sounds like an incredible experience. I mean, I'm sure while you went through that, it was just like, oh my gosh, like everything is just like happening at once and stuff. But
Yeah,
like it really tested your stamina and your ability. Okay, like this didn't work, let me try this approach. So it's like it kind of just like stretched your elasticity in a way, like, these are the different things that I can do, and it got you to the other side where now you have all of this experience. Now you don't need someone else, like, to like really like help you in certain areas, because it's like you've already made it.
yeah,
Pretty much like you've already like came up with other solutions. Like you could still bounce it off with other people, but you're pretty much kind of like set. Like it's just like, I don't know, I keep thinking in like Dragon Ball terms, and I'm just like, yeah, he's just like fluid. I don't even remember what.
ultra instinct.
Yes, that. I was just like, that's what it's like. So yeah. Wow. For those of you that don't know that, I'm sorry. I mean, I probably could have put like an image up or something, but no. Just look it up. It's amazing.
Right, right. Well,
So,
Z was Super isn't.
huh?
Hot takes. Z Dragon Ball Z is great. Dragon Ball Super isn't. Hot takes. Come at me if you will.
Yeah. So, what is something that, well, first, let me tell the people you are a new father. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What is something that you want your daughter to grow and understand as it relates to just, embracing who she is, and um, if she ever does fall into like the creative realm, what is something that you want her to know?
So I do have two godsons, and they want to do what I do. They're 9 and 11.
Mm-hmm.
And I just tell them, um, like, don't let anyone discourage you because we know now that this is something that you can do. This is something that's accessible. Obviously, we always knew we could do it because there's been a Hollywood for like 40, 50 years, whatever. Well, actually, hundreds of years. But like now we know it's accessible. We have so many outlets, so many people can get noticed just offline. And I tell them don't get discouraged of it, because when I decided I wanted to do this, there was a lot of pushback from people. Oh, that's not smart. You should just get a state job. You should just do this, that. Everybody has their own opinions, but I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm like, but still, it's very accessible. And some people too, they would say, oh, that's kid stuff. It doesn't make sense. I'm like, kid stuff, kid stuff. Let me check. What was it? Avatar. Avatar made $1 billion at the box office.
Come
The
on,
Avengers,
somebody.
the Avengers made $1 billion at the box office. So I'm like, oh yeah, $1 billion industry is kid stuff. Sure, okay, thank you. And
They
mind
tried
you,
it.
yes, and mind you, I'll give you an example. Christopher Cowan, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Black dude. Um,
Hmm.
he um, he is now working as uh, an action cameraman
Hmm.
for Marvel, Star Wars. He's done fight scenes in Shang-Chi. He's done
Wow. That was
oh,
such a
oh,
great
there you
movie.
go. Yeah, he's done fight scenes for Shang-Chi. He's done fight scenes for Solo, a Star Wars story. He's done so many high profile pictures. You know where he started out? YouTube. I'm still subscribed to this guy.
Wow.
So I'm like, so I always tell my God kids, like, don't let anyone discourage you. This is accessible. You know, be creative, and you know, if they do, because kids, when you're a kid, you always want to do something. You never know if you're going to do that later on. When I was a kid, I wanted to be Batman. Then I wanted to be a doctor. Then I wanted to be an engineer. I'm not any of those things right now.
Yeah.
But like, if they do want to pursue it, I would tell them, what I said earlier, don't chase the bag, chase experience, and then the bag will chase you. you know so just keep doing what you're doing. And sometimes you got to feed your creativity. Sometimes you got to watch other people's stuff. Sometimes you got to, you know, experience other kinds of art. You know, if someone was talking about, oh, I wanted to go to the music industry, or I wanted to be a rapper, I would say, don't just listen to rap, listen to other stuff, listen to rock, listen to classical. You know, ask Kendrick Lamar. He talks about all the time how he grew up on jazz. You know, how he grew up on blues. Listen to other stuff. You know, expand your horizons. I was just watching a YouTube channel, D for Darius. Shout out to D for Darius. Um, another black creative on YouTube. He was
All
talking
right.
about how you got right, how you got to expand your if you're a filmmaker, expand your what did he say? He said um you might need to change your film diet. You know, if you're in a creative rut, you know, stop watching all these blockbuster movies. Cause let's be honest, most of the movies nowadays are trash. You know, story wise, narrative wise. You know, they're
Mhm.
entertaining, but when it comes to a good story that works, story structure, they don't really work nowadays for the
Mhm.
most part. So, you know, expand your horizons. Look at some indie films, look at some foreign films. You know, people just discovered that Korean films are great. You know, the Korean film industry is great. Man, Koreans been killing it for years, man. They've been killing it
One
with
of those
stories.
people.
Right, right.
I'm like, this is amazing.
Exactly. Like they got some crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. But you know, just expand your film horizon. Look at some indie films. Look at some other films. Look at some. I know people don't like watching black and white films, but some of the greatest films are in black and white. You know what I'm saying? So just expand your horizons, man, and you know, keep your creative juices flowing. Don't stop, man. There's some things that I stopped doing as a kid that I wish I kept going. You know, but keep doing it. Keep feeding your creativity because creativity is life. You know, and even if you don't pursue it as a career, still do it as a hobby. You know, because we need culture, we need creativity. That's what keeps the world going. That's what keeps everybody happy. Keep it going. You know, you might inspire somebody else. You know, you never know.
Yeah, and I hope you're encouraged too, like, certain things that you might have stopped doing. Like, I hope like you're able to just like start them up again,
Yeah,
get that fulfillment.
yeah, I hope so too. Because the older that I get, the more I realize that there is something that's worth more than money, and that's time.
Yes.
Like sometimes, like I said, I'm real choosy with my projects, and sometimes I reject them even though the money's good because I know I won't get that time back. You know,
Mm,
and I have a family now, so it's like I got to reject something because I'm like, if I accept this job, here they're paying me this amount of money, but that I would have to drive 4 hours away and then spend like maybe 3 hours on set, drive 4 hours back. You know,
mm,
that's what 11 hours.
mm.
So that's ridiculous. You know, I don't want to do that. Plus, I'm wasting all that gas and da da da. You know, and then I'm like, you know what? I would do it if you pay me this instead. And if they say no, they say no. You know, because at the end of the day, my time is worth a lot more than money.
Yeah, especially and don't undercharge. Okay, people, I will say that as much as I can, don't undercharge. If you can
Yes,
include stuff. Okay, make
yes,
sure that you are straight because you don't want to be wasting your time or spending your time and losing out on money. That doesn't make any sense. So,
yes. It's a
oh
little harder for people who don't have a degree like I do. You know,
yeah.
I'm not saying you have to have one, but if you don't have one, have a portfolio
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, you got to, like I said, don't chase the bag. So there's going to be a time where you're paying your dues and you're just learning. You're just learning. But
Mm-hmm.
there's got to be a point where the learning stops. Well, not the learning stops, but there's got to be a point where it stops at a point where you stop accepting stuff at under budget of what you're worth. You got to start, you know, oh, I did this amount of work. I know what I'm doing, so I can start charging this. You know,
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was a little bit easier because I did get a degree at some point, and I was like, you know what, I got a degree now, so I can charge X amount now. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm talking about. You know,
Right.
so but for other people who don't want to go that route, and I'm not saying you got to get a degree. If you don't get a degree, just make sure you build your portfolio up, you build those connections,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to know at a certain point where you're like, you know what, I got to stop doing stuff for X amount of money. I got to increase what I'm doing.
Right. Wow. Wonderful sound advice. So, what's something that you're working on right now that the people can follow you for, or follow as it develops?
So right now, not really working on much. Just concentrating on the baby. I'm going to start putting out more videos again.
Hmm.
More. I want to get back into more intellectual stuff. Teaching people stuff like video essays on stuff. Uh,
Hmm.
Look out for that soon. I am working on a short film, so once we start filming, script's done, storyboarding's done. We just got to start filming soon. So, sometime next year, hopefully in the summer, we can drop that. Be on
Okay.
the lookout for that.
All right. And as I get links and stuff, I'll put them in the description area as well. Are you ready for some rapid fire? This is the last thing.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So, the first one, I'll wait till you finish drinking so you don't like choke. All right. So, the first thing, what is like the best movie or best film of all time that you've watched? Like for its editing capabilities, the storyline,
Oh my gosh.
like where it's just like you're just like, wow, that was amazing.
Wakanda Forever was dope.
All right, I still need to see that. Okay, second one. What was
But I'll
the
say Gladiator for that answer. Gladiator.
okay Gladiator? What was
Especially all the crap they had to do behind the scenes. That movie should have never been good, but it turned out good nonetheless. So look up what happened behind the scenes and you'll see.
all right? What was the worst one that you've ever seen? Like it was just edited poorly. It was overrated. Everything.
Avatar The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah, I agree. A lot of the fan base was upset with that one.
Morbius is a close second too.
Oh man, that one looked promising,
No, I
but I
checked it
guess
out on
I
Netflix
didn't
the
get
other
around
month.
to watching
No.
it. Probably
Mm.
not.
It was free on Netflix last month and I watched it. I was like, what did I just watch? I was like, I don't know what's worse, Avatar The Last Airbender or this.
Wow. So, what do you eat like to get into that space? Like, what's your favorite meal to eat to get into the space of like creating?
I don't have a meal. I don't have a meal. I actually
No snacks, nothing.
oh, Teddy Grahams.
Okay. So we got this whole bona fide degree guy, and he eats Teddy Grahams to give you quality work. Okay, Teddy Grahams.
Because I have an issue with overeating.
Yeah.
so so I use Teddy Grahams as like a semi healthy thing to eat. And I put it in a bowl. Instead of getting the box, I put it in a bowl with a set portion so I don't overeat.
Oh wow, that's smart. Yeah, because especially that was one of the things that I had learned about that I was just like, wow. So it's like, oh, if you eat in front of the TV, you're just gonna be
Oh
overeating.
yeah.
I was just like, oh man.
That's why we're all so obese right now. Because so much content is on TV and we're just eating and eating and eating.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you
something
gotta
about
keep
TV.
eating to get through the movie.
Something about eating, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. Who in the film industry influences you the most that you just look up to and you're like, wow, I want to meet that person in the room and just talk about film all day?
Can I say a couple?
Hmm.
Ryan Coogler.
Okay.
Um, um, I just his name Spike Lee.
Okay.
Spike Lee. Denis. I'm gonna say his name bad. Denis Villeneuve, the
Hmm.
guy who directed Dune and Blade Runner 2049. That guy. Yeah. Christopher Nolan too. Even though I'm pretty critical about his last movie, but Christopher Nolan, yeah, because Christopher Nolan, he really doesn't care what people say. I love that about him. He really doesn't care. He does whatever he wants. He don't care.
That's the best freedom. Uh,
It's a power, man. It's a power, and I feel a little proud because I developed that over the years. Like I don't care what you think. I'm gonna do what I want to do, but I am cognizant of what makes a good story. I listen to the people around me.
hmm.
So that's one thing you gotta do.
Yeah, you definitely have to have that skin because, like, other than that, you're always going to be checking, like, over your shoulder. Like, is this okay? Should I do this? Or did I say
Oh
that
yeah,
wrong? You'll never get nothing out.
Get a good team around you so they can check you. They can be like, yo, that doesn't make sense, or let's do it this way. You know.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this talk, Nigel. Like, wow, like I'm just, my mind is blown. Okay, this film needs to be out there. Okay, we just
I
saw
know.
the inside mind of a film creative, and just thank you for your time. And yeah, we'll see you on pages, on film, and on the mic.
All right. Peace. Appreciate it.